Hello, my name is Mark Philpott. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my first week on the carnivore diet. Well, the first thing I want to talk about being on the carnivore diet is the psychological impact or transition from a normal Western diet. Before starting carnivore, I was a high carbohydrate, high protein eater. I'm an athlete, so I was eating a lot of carbs every day, trying to get a lot of fuel in me. And I was a sweet tooth as well. I had a lot of interest in eating cakes and ice cream and things like that. I decided to go cold turkey a week ago, and I went basically overnight to eating just meat, salt, ghee, water, electrolytes, and that's it. So that's all. Sorry, eggs. I have eggs as well, and that's it. So it was a huge psychological impact for me. At the beginning of the week, I felt really good in terms of that psychological change. I didn't feel really any desire for carbohydrates or for sweet things, because I put my mindset in the frame of mind that, hey, I'm going to do this no matter what. And the first few days were really easy as far as that goes. I think one of the things that, after doing so much research, I spent over a year of doing research before I started this diet, I'd already put myself in a fairly positive mindset of the benefits that I was anticipating were going to happen. So from a psychological point of view, there was a lot to look forward to, and not a lot of regrets that I was going to have. So that's how I started off the beginning of the week. As the week went on, I got myself into a state of mind where I was more and more committed to the transition. When I say committed, not so much in terms of not having any cheat meals, but from a point of view of being very solid and comfortable with the decision that I made to make this new way of eating. And I think that's a really important aspect for anybody that's thinking about going carnivore, is that you have made up your mind, you have determined in your mind that this is really what you want to do, and that you're going to give it your fullest chance to be successful. And I think once you've put yourself in that mindset, then I think it makes it easier to do that transition, and that's what I found throughout this week. Okay, next up I want to talk about my energy levels. Well, as the week's gone on, they've become better. I started off feeling very weak, and I just want to caveat that with, I'm still getting over COVID. So when I started this carnivore diet, I still had what I call the COVID hangover. I'd had COVID for 3 weeks before. I was starting to feel better, but I wasn't back, or I'm not back to my full 100% self. So I actually started the carnivore diet while I was still experiencing the last parts of COVID, and that's still the case today after the 7 days of being on carnivore. So you've got to take that into consideration when I'm talking about my energy levels. They were already fairly well down. I started doing some running at the beginning of the week. I'm an athlete, so I train every day. I had to reduce my training levels. I could not maintain them, and I didn't want to maintain them because I think it's important to let the body recover and get used to the transition of going on to the carnivore diet. So as the week's gone on, I've actually reduced my amount of training, and I'm starting to find that my energy levels have started to increase slightly. So not a huge increase in energy levels. I think I have experienced the keto flu, or I am experiencing the keto flu, and that also has compounded my energy levels over time. But what I have started to notice, particularly in the last 2 days of this first week, is my energy levels in the afternoon and in the early evening have increased. So it's part of the day that I've always struggled with in the past, that late afternoon, early evening period. And I found that this particular week I've found a lot more energy. In fact, I did a workout yesterday late afternoon, which I never do because I never feel happy to do it at that time. So yeah, overall my energy levels are starting to increase, but I'm still feeling fairly weak, particularly when it comes to my training and my athletic prowess, if you want to call it that. Now, next one on the list is bowel movements and that whole toilet scene, something that a lot of people find fascinating when it comes to the carnivore diet. Well, for me, it's been no diarrhea. I've kept my salt intake very high and my electrolyte intake very high, and I think that's definitely helped when it comes to the toilet scenario. But I have increased peeing a lot, and man, have I increased peeing a lot. So in the first 3 or 4 days, I think I was going to the toilet about 15 times a day. That started to reduce now as I get to the end of the first week, or I am at the end of the first week of the carnivore diet. But I got rid of a lot of body fluid, that's for sure. And yeah, that feels good because it's making me lighter. We'll talk about weight reduction, but I find that the toilet process has been all about peeing for me. And I've reduced the amount of times that I go for number twos, but I haven't had diarrhea, which has been a godsend. So that's what's happened as far as the bowel movements go. Okay, let's talk about weight impact. Now, when I started this diet 7 days ago, I was 88.7 kilograms, and today I'm 85.9 kilograms. So I've lost just about 3 kilograms, which has been really, really fantastic. And I feel obviously a lot leaner, but in the last 2 days, the weight started to go back up again. So I went down as low as 85.4 kilograms, and I'm now back up to 85.9. So it's just kind of started to stabilize. Now, as an athlete, once again, when I started this program, I was fairly lean and weight loss, but I think I had an initial drop of losing that body fluid, and now my body has kind of already balanced out. So it's going to be really interesting to see in the weeks to come whether I lose any more body weight, but I'm settling around the 85.9 at the moment. Now, my goal as an athlete is actually to get down to 82 or 81 kilos. So I'm still 3 kilos shy of that, and I'm going to see whether or not that happens in the coming weeks and months. But that's what's happened with me so far when it comes to weight. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the quality of meat that I'm eating, because I do live in Cancun in Mexico, and some people might be interested to know what is the quality of meat like and where do I source the meat from. Well, I'm getting all of my meat so far from places like Costco and Walmart, and from a local supermarket brand as well. And I was just saying to my wife last night that the quality of meat has been really, really good. So we're not having any problems in getting good quality meat. The best is from Costco, there's no doubt about that. And as a result of that, you're paying a little bit more for the meat. So maybe in next week's video, I'll do an update on how much I'm paying for some of that meat. But typically speaking, it's very, very cheap compared to other countries around the world. So basically where I get my quality meat from. So from Costco, from Walmart, and from a local supermarket chain called Chidawi. And those are my 3 sources of good quality meat so far. So very happy about that. Okay, next one is eating habits. Now, before I started carnivore, I was eating twice a day. I was already intermittent fasting, and I wasn't having my first meal until around about 11 o'clock in the morning, and then I would have my bigger meal towards the end of the day around about 4 or 5 o'clock, and that would be my staple 2 meals a day. Now with carnivore, I've started to find a bit of a difference as I've gone on during the week. I started off with 2 meals at the beginning a day, then I had 1 meal a day for 1 day, and now I've gone to actually 2 meals and a couple of snacks during the day. So it's kind of varied over the first week, and I'm just trying to find my sweet point when it comes to experimenting with carnivore. So I think it's important from an eating habits point of view that you find the right time or windows of the day that works for you. Again, because I'm an athlete full-time, I have to be careful with monitoring and measuring my fuel load around my training load. So that's one of the things that I've had to do with my eating habits. But at the moment we're down to 2 times a day and a few snacks in between. Okay, let's talk about sleep on carnivore diet, and this has probably been the biggest negative for me in the first 7 days of being on the carnivore diet. My sleep is terrible, and for someone who's usually a pretty good sleeper, I found it very difficult dealing with insomnia every night. I go to bed, I feel very tired and lifeless, but I can't go to sleep, and I've had very restless nights for the whole week of this first week. So not sure what other people's experiences are around this, but I am experiencing bad sleep at the moment. And again, I think it's to do with the overall keto flu, the impact of COVID that I'm still having, and it's really impacted my sleep. So I'm looking forward to week 2 to see whether or not my sleeping process and experience does improve. Okay, the cost of carnivore. As I mentioned when I was talking about meat quality, I live here in Mexico, in Cancun in Mexico, and I'm finding the cost of doing carnivore very competitive indeed. When I say competitive, I mean compared to my previous way of eating. So it is cheaper for me to eat and live as a carnivore, and that's working out really well, even though I get very good quality meats, and from a financial point of view it's a bit of a winner, so no one can ever complain about that. So the cost of doing carnivore here in Mexico is very good, and it's a good place to live as well. So if you're looking for a change in life, come and live in Mexico for a while. Well, my athletic performance by being on carnivore for the first week has been terrible. So as I said earlier, I have reduced my training levels significantly to where I'm only doing about 10% of what I was doing before I was on carnivore, and that's due to just overall tiredness, lack of energy levels. But I expected this due to having the keto flu and also still getting over COVID. So again, I'm just letting you all know that I have had COVID fairly severely for the last 3 weeks, and I know that I'm just still slowly rebounding from that. So overall my athletics performance has been severely affected to the stage where I'm doing really probably about 20 minutes of exercise a day for training at the moment, compared to a couple of hours of really solid exercise. So I'm just taking it easy and looking forward to gaining some more strength in the coming weeks so I can get back into my full-on training program. I've got some big races coming up this year, so I want to make sure that I really bounce back nice and strongly for this. And another thing that's really interesting is I've done a lot of research and been in conversations with athletes around the world who have been doing carnivore for quite a while, and they're having amazing results from being on carnivore. So I'm looking forward to doing very well in my races. So week number 1 of carnivore diet is over for me, and now the summary. How have I found it all? Well, the transition was fairly easy from a psychological point of view. I didn't have any problems going ahead and starting carnivore. I'm a real meat lover, so that part of it's been very easy for me. And I think the biggest downside for me during this week has been the lack of energy and just the overall tiredness associated with having the keto flu and just the body doing the fat adaptation process. So as an athlete, I'm somebody that's always feeling very strong and fresh and energized. So to have this feeling in my body where I feel tired and I feel sluggish and all the rest of it, then that's a different experience and a relatively new experience for me as well. So one has to come to being accustomed to that. The other downside has been the lack of good quality sleep. So insomnia is something that's definitely come into my life over the last week, and I'm hoping that's something that will pass very soon. But overall, I've seen exactly what I expected to see from all the research that I've done over the years into the carnivore diet. In no way is that putting me off in terms of how I'm feeling at the moment, because I also know that I'm dealing with the remnants of the COVID virus. So I'm putting all that together and saying, well, hey, look, my body's probably really run down at the moment. It's going through a big transition, and I'm definitely going to stick in there and see how it all feels when I come out the other side. I'm not a quitter, so I'm not somebody that's going to give this away just because I feel a little bit bad this week. I know that the sun's going to come up tomorrow, and I know that this also will pass and I'll come out the other side. So I'm really looking forward to the second week on carnivore, and some of the things that I might change going into next week is I think it's important for me to have various snacks throughout the day. I haven't been doing a lot of that, so I'm going to cook meat and have it in the fridge that I can just draw on and have a few pieces every now and again, and also a bit of ghee butter that I'm using as well. A mouthful of that tends to help out a lot. I think from a fluid point of view, I've got that going really, really well. The hydration is good. The electrolytes, which I was using before as an athlete anyway, has just carried on over into this lifestyle. And I drink, a good amount of water every day without overdoing it. The toilet breaks that I'm having have been very good. As I said before, no diarrhea for me at this stage. And I feel as though I'm heading towards the fat adaptation goal line, if you want to call it that, in a pretty good way. So yeah, going to be very interesting to see how week 2 goes. And if you're interested to follow my journey on the carnivore diet, then hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell notification, and you'll be notified every week when I drop a video on this. If you're interested to follow my journey as a 57-year-old professional athlete, I've got a lot of things coming up in the year of 2023, then you also might like to follow the channel from that perspective. But I will be doing regular updates on the carnivore diet, how it's affecting me and my lifestyle, and also my athletic performance as I head into races and some of the big long challenges that I have coming up this year. For one, the first one I'm doing is I'm running the entire length of Great Britain. That's happening at the end of April. So I want to get myself very much into my training again and get ready for that big run. And we'll be able to see how that performs under the carnivore standards. Yeah. So there we go, week 1 of my carnivore diet. Hope some of the information I've shared has been either useful or similar to what you've been going through. As we all know, we all adapt differently. We all have different genetic makeups. So all I'm doing is sharing what I've been through. I'm in no way giving any medical advice in this particular video. I'm just sharing my own journey when it comes to the carnivore diet. So I'll be back again soon in another video. Until then, enjoy eating meat. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you again soon in the next video. Bye for now.